Hi, I'm Amy M. Lee. I'm the founder of Quill Hawk Publishing, and you're listening to the Unfreaking Believable Podcast.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Unfreaking Believable. We invite you to pull up a chair, relax, and join in for the next 40 minutes or so as we bring you guests who will share with you the moments that made a difference in their lives. And it's all because of that one inciting incident. We believe that life is infinitely stranger than fiction, stranger than anything the mind can invent. You might even say, it's unfreaking believable.
Welcome to the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Jen.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Betsy. How's everybody doing today?
Rocking and rolling.
Exhausted.
You've had your plate full.
Yeah, I mean, you've had contractors in your house in and out for what, a week now?
3 weeks.
Oh no, longer than I thought.
Oh, has it been that long? Oh my gosh, where did the time go?
3 weeks, yep. I rock and rolled right out of pneumonia into a water pipe burst and have had 15 industrial fans running in my house for 3 weeks straight and 2 giant industrial humidifiers.
You're gonna have to go out to the woods just so you can have some quiet.
Yeah, I do. I go out onto my deck. I bundle up if it's cold in my winter coat. And if not, I just go out in the back deck and sit to try and, just get a break from all the noise in here.
Sounds like my husband and the TV too loud.
Yeah. I mean,
my biggest complaint in this house.
I'm thinking about that, Jenny, and I mean, that amount of noise, because I'm so sensitive to that.
Me too.
If we have TVs on in 2 rooms, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
Because it's like the sounds don't match and it bothers me.
Oh, yeah, it's been driving me crazy.
I would have to get in my car and go sit in a parking lot in a silent car for like an hour.
You know what? I'm not going to lie. I have gone out to my vehicle and just gone out there, reclined back, put the heated seats on and just listen to some music out there.
That's not a bad thing to do. I feel for you. That's a hot mess.
But hopefully the deconstruction is going to be starting tomorrow. So hopefully this will all be wrapped up in a couple of weeks. I'll just hope everybody's quick.
Oh, I hope
Sweet.
so. I hope so for your sake.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I want to ask a couple of questions, like progress reports on what you guys are up to literarily. So I know Betsy, and I know you've been kind of dropping some hints of what you've been working on. What have you got going on in the next couple of weeks?
Right. So I'm finishing up book 8 in the Veritas Codex series. I have completely rewritten it. I went through and made some revisions yesterday in a couple of chapters, and I have gone through and reviewed 22 of the 27 chapters in the book. So I'm almost done with my first round of reviews. I have a process I go through, do some editing. Everything gets done in-house before it goes to the publisher, who sends it to the professional editor. There's a whole process there. It goes back and forth like a tennis match. But I've also been busy booking some personal appearances, got some upcoming writers' conferences, a couple paranormal conferences, and looking for more writers groups in the area. And I went to a conference yesterday by Zoom back in Oklahoma City. And so I am just on it, trying to get out and get some books into the hands of people and, shake hands and kiss babies and all that fun stuff. And you have too.
Yeah, I have. What's your next appearance, just in case anybody's in the area and they want to come see you?
Well, most everything right now is in October, so I'm trying to get some stuff between now and October, and I've got some feelers out on a couple of events, so I don't have anything pinned down just yet, but I'll be everywhere in October. I've got the Arkansas Paranormal Conference. I'm going to have a table for that, and then I'm speaking at the Ozark Creative Writers Conference the first week in October up in Eureka Springs. There's a Bigfoot conference. I'm going to try to get in on that. There's a Bigfoot conference here in Arkansas in April too. I'm not going to do a table for that one. I may just go down and just check it out, make some contacts, meet some folks. So if you're at the Bigfoot Festival down in April, keep an eye out. I might be there.
Awesome.
I'll have on my UFB shirt.
All right. I love that. Represent. And
Yeah.
Jenny, you've been editing like a wild woman, as I recall, in between bouts of construction people running in and out of your house.
Yes, I am working with my editor on what is hopefully going to be the final round of edits. And while I do not have a release date yet, I was told that it would be out this summer. So
Perfect.
I'll have more to come with that, but I'll be moving. I'm still gonna, we're moving in 2 months, so I'll be packing and taking care of that. And once we're all settled in, hopefully my book will be out and I can start booking some places for me to go myself.
Yay, that's fantastic.
Yay!
That's
I'm ready
awesome.
for you. I'm excited.
Ah, me too.
I have friends that are waiting for your books because I've told them so much about
Yay! I love
your
that.
book. So I have a couple friends that are
I mean, who doesn't want a thick boy fantasy read on the beach, right?
Right?
It's the perfect time for it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Well, so I've got a few things coming up, but in April, I'll just tell people where I'm going to be in April. If you happen to be in the Central Florida area, on April 12th, I will be at the Book Shack in Dade City signing books with Maria DeVivo and Steve Altier. Steve was a guest of ours in December, so if anybody wants to meet both of us at the same time, we will be at the Book Shack in Dade City from 12 to 4, and that should be a lot of fun. That's a great bookshop with it's like it should be in a cozy novel because it has like a little coffee shop attached and everything. They're terrific. And then April 26th, I'll be at the Tarpon Springs Author Fest.
nice.
Which, if you know downtown Tarpon Springs, it is very artsy, very cool. Lots of antique shops and sort of woo-woo shops and independent bookstores and
I love the woo-woo shops.
a pinball museum where you can go play pinball all day.
Nice.
So yeah, very, very cool. And I'm very excited that I was invited to be there. So those are my next 2 things coming up.
Right on.
And I'm so excited because finally, after this living rent-free in my head for like a decade, I have released my own choose your own adventure style book based on, you guessed it, the Loch Ness Monster.
Yay!
And it's called The Creature in Loch Ness. I just dropped it in the end of February. And I'm thrilled to tell you guys that Ashley Range, Ashley, the Nessie lady, was constantly messaging with me while I was working on finishing that book. So she was super, super helpful, as was Ellen McKenna, who she talked about in her interview with us. And in fact, I put both Ashley and Amanda, the Bigfoot lady, and Ellen McKenna, I put them all in the book. So
That's awesome.
Yay!
I got my copy and immediately took it to the bathtub because where else would you read about the Loch Ness Monster but in the bathtub? And every
That's
time I take a
awesome.
bath, I read another adventure and change up the story. And I grew up reading like the Indiana Jones Choose Your Own Adventure books. And so, I mean, I was probably older than it was intended for, but, you know, that was my teenage years. So I was all
That's
over
okay,
that. So,
Betsy. I read those as a teenager too. It's fine.
yeah, they were
I
great.
I was obsessed with the Choose Your Own Adventure books. I
Yes.
loved them. So
Yep.
I've always wanted to write one, and I've already promised Betsy and Amanda that the Bigfoot book is next. So
Yay.
Woohoo.
I'm
Awesome.
excited.
and don't worry, Jenny, I'll get a Yeti in there.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah, there'll be a Yeti and a Mothman, probably a
Because I
chupacabra.
tell you, watching the movie Caveman when I was a kid, when they wound up in the Ice Age place where they had to save Dennis Quaid's character, and he was pointing at something, it wound up being the big scary Yeti. But when they all got away, he was just all sad, and his big
Aw.
furry arm flops to his side, and he turns around, he just shuffles away all sad, kind of, and he's got a little naked butt. So I felt so bad for him. I just wanted to be his friend forever, and that's where I got my love of the Yetis.
It's like Harry and the Andersons, but yeah, I do love a good Bumble because Bumbles bounce.
Yes, they do.
Nice. All right. Well, Jen, do you have a word of the day for us?
Yes, I have a word of the day.
Let
and
us hear
I'm-
the word of the day.
Yes, I've been sitting on this one for a little while. My word of the day is latibulate.
Latibulate.
Now, when you just say that, it sounds like it should be something dirty, but it's not. It's latibulate means to hide in the corner. So,
Interesting.
I do that all the
yes.
time.
Latibulate, because I am very opinionated, is what happens to me when people start to talk about politics. I go hide in the corner so I
Yeah.
don't get involved and make
Oh, no.
people
That's when
mad
I
at
throw out the
me.
Irish goodbye. I'm leaving.
Yeah, I gotta go. Yeah.
You know, the first thing it made me think of was the end of that very first, the Blair Witch Project, when that first came out, that
Mhm.
shocking ending with the person in the corner, because there were 2 stories that people were talking about on how that was going to end, and it was literally somebody in the corner.
Yeah.
This is the first thing that came to mind when I thought
Yeah.
about letibulate.
I'd forgotten all about that, but yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Jenny's got some fun facts. How's that for a non sequitur?
Woohoo! Yes, I do. I've got 3 quick fun facts for us today. First one is sharks have existed longer on Earth than trees have. Next,
Wait,
yeah,
now.
That's
the
my
next,
cringy thing.
Wait,
You know,
what?
I'm terrified of sharks.
yeah. Oh God, me too.
I'll take a tree any day.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a Florida girl. I love sharks, but I am shocked by that statistic.
Yeah, I love statistics like this, and of course you like sharks, Jen. You have Boo.
That's true. I not only do I have Boo, since Boo lost her tracker, then I had Slim Shady, and then
Oh, yeah,
Slim
that's
Shady
right.
lost his tracker, and then I had Gus, and then all of a sudden Boo popped back up, and then Slim Shady popped back up. So now I got 3 hammerhead sharks.
Wow.
Sweet. You can keep them. I still live in Arkansas because they can't get me here.
Yeah, my follow bracelet. For those of you that don't know about that, it's a shark tracker bracelet. So anyway,
That's cool.
continue.
I think that's actually cool.
Tell us more.
All right. So after the extinction of dinosaurs, it took 65 million years for us humans to appear on Earth. So humans and dinosaurs, we never actually coexisted the way you see it in movies and stuff with cavemen and dinosaurs. That never happened.
Nope.
Yeah, never happened.
Nope.
Never happened.
Mastodons,
something
yes,
that was-
but nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell Bob Signs that because he
No.
got stepped on by a dinosaur
Yes, he did.
in Jurassic World.
Jurassic Park
Yeah. Oh,
2.
did he?
Second
It was
movie.
Jurassic World.
It was
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jurassic Park 2, I thought. No?
We'll have to ask him.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we'll have to
Hey,
check with him on
Patreon
which one it
people,
is.
tell us which it was because his interview, his bonus material on Patreon talks about that.
Yes.
So please
Yeah, it does.
tell us which it was.
And speaking of things that never happened, here's something else that never happened. In the movie Monsters, Inc., there's a line, oh, sure, pick on the little guy with his one eye. It's not in the movie. It was only ever featured in a commercial.
That's funny.
That's like
Yeah.
one of those Mandela effect kind of things.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yep.
I actually, that's probably one of my favorite movies. My kids watched the heck out of that. They were the right age for that. And so when people ask me about Bigfoot and why I'm so interested in Bigfoot, I always tell people because Bigfoot was my monster. It was the
Yep.
first monster I ever heard of. So yeah, I love Monsters, Inc. That's great.
Yep.
Is everyone ready to get started with this episode?
Let's rock on. I'm so excited.
Let's do this.
Today, our guest is author and publisher Amy M. Lee. Amy is the award-winning author of the Snow Trilogy featuring Snow in Vietnam, Snow in Seattle, and Snow's Kitchen, among others. She was born in Vietnam, raised in Seattle, and now lives in Oklahoma with her husband, son, and pets. She's the founder of Quill Hawk Publishing and helps indie authors publish and market their work. Amy is the epitome of the word hustle and is also one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Amy M. Lee. Amy, pleasure to have you on.
Hey, ladies. Thank you for having me. Yay.
We're so excited that you're here.
We're here. Thank you.
Yeah. We've had to reschedule a couple of times, but thanks for working with us. And, we're here. We get it done.
Absolutely.
And it's a WriterCon reunion.
It is. Which
Um,
reminds me, there is a early bird registration if you're interested in going to WriterCon. If you're a writer or want to be, now's the time.
Bill needs to cut you in on that. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
shameless
Bill
plug.
needs to give you some money.
Yeah. He publishes my books, so I'm good with that.
So, Amy, I'm dying to hear about Quill Hawk because at the last WriterCon, that's the first time I saw you with the big display for Quill Hawk. So tell us more about your publishing company. We're so excited for you.
Thank you. So Quill Hawk Publishing started 3 years ago in 2022. And it was not by choice, to be honest. I was pulled, dragging, and kicking. I actually met somebody on social media. We were friends on a cooking group, right? And after knowing each other for a couple of years, he said, Amy, I love that you're hustling your books and hustling, in general, but you're just doing it wrong. And I think I can help you, turn it up a level. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, I think you have so much knowledge in your head and so much experience and so much networking under your belt that you can really create a publishing powerhouse. And so that's how it started. And I challenged him to build me a sexy website. That's what I told him. And 5 months later, after we went down this road together, he he built me a sexy website. And he's like, okay, now you got to launch.
Well, you put him under a lot of pressure because if he says you're doing it wrong, then he better do it right.
Exactly, and I did vet him out. I learned a little bit about him. He just launched a company called, Media Vines, and he comes from a very technologically savvy background, helping people make millions of dollars. And he has a lot of knowledge in his space. Like he charges thousands of dollars for an hour of his time. So to get this done free of charge, almost free of charge, I did pay him in the end, but it was just short of miraculous. And I launched in August 2022, not ready to launch. Only 80% of the website was completed, because I kept dragging my feet. And when we did, he was hand-holding me every step of the way. He was like, okay, this is how you do SEOs. This is how you claim your knowledge panel and create a business profile. This is how you get your reviews, because reviews are worth $1,000 in ad spend. Like, these business-minded tips that I didn't think about. And like I said, in 3 years, we've been helping a lot of authors. I'm proud to say we have over 50 authors signed with us. And I think we've published about 35 books already under Quill Hawk. And it's just growing, and I'm proud to say it's an Asian American woman-owned hybrid publishing company. So that's how it got started, and I'm on a mission.
It's fantastic. What are some of the goals that you have when you first started? What was like one of your first goals that you came up with besides the sexy website?
Yeah, so I mean, the first year I really did not want to be. I expected to be in the hole financially, right? You got to spend money to make money. You got to build the website and join all these organizations, promote, market, everything else. And honestly, my goal was from there to just double my income every year, and last year I quit my part-time job to give this thing 100% of my attention. And, the good thing is I did increase my revenue. The bad thing is I had to pay Uncle Sam for it. So this tax
Isn't that
season
always
was
how it goes?
brutal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're doing well when you have to pay taxes.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you're my spirit animal right now because I just launched Busy Quill Publishing. So it's almost like we're cousins,
Yes.
spirit
Yes.
cousins.
Let's collaborate.
Yeah. So I will be in a slightly different space than you, I think, but I may pick your brain about some things as we go along, since I'm very much a fledgling, but I'm Betsy does a whole workshop on imposter syndrome, and I really don't have imposter syndrome when it comes to writing, but when it comes to business, I always second guess myself because that's a newer space for me. So,
Yeah.
For myself as an author, that going in and not having it like a business acumen. I've been a creator and I've been a writer and I worked in state government, ran a nonprofit. So I did start to build some of that business acumen. But when I first started publishing, I didn't have it. And that was the thing that scared me the most. And having somebody that can help you along that path has got to be worth all its weight in gold.
I think that's the biggest mistake we authors have, is not going into it with a business mindset. Oh, we're creatives, and it turns out to be a very expensive hobby. So if you want to make it full time, you got to think business and think about what else besides books can you capitalize on, what other talents and skills that we have, what networks we have that we can leverage, and back to those conferences, those darn conferences. I mean, that is really the jumping point, because that's when I started writing my book. I went to conferences and immersed myself into these writing communities just so that I can learn and develop my craft that way.
Yeah, they're worth their weight in gold too, for sure.
Yes.
So you've got the Snow Trilogy, but you have another project that I'm really interested in. I want to hear more about your Bus Stop Buddies program, your books.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I just had a conversation today with a 16-year-old who wants to publish books. And he asked me if I was doing any other projects. And I said, well, and I didn't have any intentions really, but I just blurted it out. So now I'm kind of stuck with it. I'm writing book 2 of Bus Stop Buddies. And this one is called The Retreat, whereas the first one is called The Showdown. That was written with my son. The first one was written with my son because, we were approaching summer. And I was like, you are not going to sit on your butt and do nothing for the summer. You're going to write a book with me. And we did. It did take more than the summer, but Bus Stop Buddies came out last year, and it was March 28th. So we're getting close to the 1-year mark. And since then, it's won 3 Book Fest awards. So we're very excited about that.
Well, what's the premise? Tell our listeners what the premise of Book Stop Buddies is.
Oh, of course. Yes. So Bus Stop Buddies is autofiction. Actually, it's middle grade fiction based on my son's life story of being the new kid in Oklahoma. We moved from Seattle, so he went from a Montessori to a public school, going from a blue state to a red state, like all these changes, and was bullied left and right. And in the end, it was him being comfortable in his own skin and finding ways to be accepted and accept others for their differences. And so it really is a beautiful story about friendship, on top of the bullying. So.
What a great lesson for others. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it must have been very, empowering for him ultimately when it was done to have completed something like that. Probably, I imagine there were a lot of very tense conversations in process, but I bet when it was done, he was really proud.
I mean, he's a typical teenager, right? He's like, oh my God, that's done. My life is back again. And, but, then the royalties started coming in, and I was like giving him money every single month. And then he was like, okay, I understand now, and he's not going to do the second book with me, and that's fine. But now he's got something on his resume, which, hopefully that will help in his college applications and things like that. But yeah,
and if he's going to go into any kind of science, the rule is publish or die.
Yeah, I'm nervous about what he's going to choose for his lifetime career. But...
No, my son got his degree in music, and he's working in a coffee shop. So just what they pursue in college doesn't necessarily mean their path is set.
Oh, absolutely.
And he loves it, so I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like he's an amazing barista, though, from what I've heard.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Award-winning barista.
He's the top barista in Texas.
Dang.
He won that award at a contest, and he doesn't even live in Texas.
Then he's really, really
that's
amazing.
Something. Exactly.
That's going to make some people salty, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. But I'm impressed that you're looking at the young authors. I saw a news article the other day about an 11-year-old who got his first publishing contract, and he's got a book coming out, and I think that's just fantastic. I wish somebody had been there with me when I was little, because I wrote my first book at 6. So just having somebody who could have encouraged me, I probably could have been a lot further along in my path.
Yeah, but Bessie, how many books do you have now? You have like 8 or 7?
I have 7 out now, a couple of anthologies, and I'm currently working on the edits for book 8. I got through chapter 10 today.
Right on.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
So yeah, it's a slow process, but books 9, 10, 11, and most of 12 are written, and we'll start the editing process on book 9 as soon as book 8 gets out.
I just downloaded the first one on audio. I can't wait to listen to
it. They're so good. They're so good.
I've had her books, but who has time to read?
Yes. Oh, I that's why I do totally feel that. I just I just sent her screenshots because I had Audible credits. So I think it was book 5, 6, and 7 on Audible for her because I told her, I was like, I never have time to sit down and read, but if I'm driving, I can listen.
Yeah.
So,
and you've got some road trips this summer. So
yeah, well, my daughter's going with me for this weekend for my big show in Deltona. So I don't know that I'm going to get to listen in the car because she's going to make me listen to Epic the Musical over and over and over again.
Well, so I'd make you listen to Hamilton if it was me. So
yeah, there you go.
Good luck.
Amy, I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear why we brought you on the show. Are you ready to tell your unfreaking believable story?
Oh, yes, I think so.
All right, the microphone is all yours.
Thank you. I have so many stories, but I will start with what I'm most known for. So I was born 9 months before the Vietnam War ended in a small little province in the Mekong Delta. And I had a congenital heart defect. So I actually had a hole in my heart when I was born. So I wasn't getting the nutrients, I wasn't getting the oxygen, the blood flow wasn't there. So I was literally um, failing to thrive, and was given a less than 5 years, sentence to live.
Oh.
Meanwhile, right, the war is raging on in my country, and the communist regime rolled in with their tanks on April 30th, 1975. So this year in 2025, this April 30th, which we call Black April, it's going to be the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War already. And anyways, when the tanks rolled in and the war ended, my father fled the country with his American wife and his family, which was a shock to my mom, a total betrayal. And so she found herself alone and no resources to care for me. And this is as much my story as it is my mom's story. With the new government rolling in, she lost her job. She lost the currency had changed. It went from the piastra to the dong, and the only thing worth anything was gold. So you had to steal or try to hide your gold. But my mom, she found a way to survive. She went undercover. She went into the black market.
Oh, wow.
And she made these treacherous journeys from our hometown into Saigon, which was then renamed Ho Chi Minh City. And she sold everything that she could get her hands on that was contraband. So she found morphine, in hospitals that were abandoned. She found things that the U.S. government and the military left behind out in the ports on these huge, large cargo containers. And did this for several years until and there's a lot that goes into this, which you'll know in the Snow Trilogy, but ultimately, she was able to save enough money to buy passage for her and myself to get on this tiny little shrimp trawler to escape the country. And at the last minute, my cousin came with us. He didn't know he was leaving the country for good. He thought that my mom was just getting resettled into another province to start her teaching career. So we, the three of us, went through, we crossed rivers. We went from one town to another town, not knowing what we were doing, trusting these people, basically human traffickers, right, that were guiding us through, not knowing if we can trust them or if they're going to, at any moment, tell on us and we would be captured by the communist government. But ultimately, the last stop was through this thicket of mosquitoes and whatever in this jungle. And we came upon a group, one of three. The other two ended up getting caught, but we were the lucky ones. We made it. And at the crack of dawn, a boat came by, and all 43 of us went onto this tiny little boat. This boat could not hold like 10 people. So we were jammed in there like sardines. There was a bottom and a lower level. So a lot of the weaker, the older, the kids, whatever, we were under the bottom part, where it was really stuffy. And, people were defecating in where they were at. They were vomiting where they were at. And it was just horrible. The stench was horrible. But we were being chased by AK-47s as we were leaving to get into into sea. Luckily, we made it all intact. But as soon as we got out there, we were like, now what? Because we're adrift in the South China Sea, no compass, hardly any food, hardly any water, no money really, because our money wasn't worth anything now. We had no country to come back to, but no country to go to either. So we were completely homeless. Adrift for 5 days. And, the thing about at that time when there was a mass exodus of boat people, hundreds of thousands of people were fleeing Vietnam. And to this day, 50 years later, there's still people trying to leave the country. But we went out there, and you'll hear about Thai pirates that would raid these helpless, refugee boats, and they would steal everything. They would rape the women. They would kidnap the girls. I mean, it was just horrible. And
Wow, I can't believe you had to go through that.
we were lucky in the sense that we were able to come to Malaysian Island. I get emotional when I talk about this, so sorry. But we got to the Malaysian Islands and burned our boat so that the government, was forced to deal with us. They couldn't send us back out to sea. And ultimately, they did send us back out, but we got onto this huge vessel that took us to the Galang refugee camp in Indonesia, where, UNHCR and the humanitarian organizations, they did their best, but they were not, they were overwhelmed. They were not ready, I guess, to receive all these refugees. So they quickly had to build up these makeshift buildings, whatever, to accommodate us. There was no plumbing, can you imagine? No showers, no toilets. It was horrible. And sardines and rice were what we ate almost every day. So luckily, we were sponsored by a church in Seattle. And shortly after we arrived in Seattle, my heart failed me.
Oh.
I collapsed and I fell down a flight of stairs, rushed to Seattle Children's Hospital, had my emergency open heart surgery. And here's the unfreaking believable part, is that the surgeon who worked on my heart was a triple board certified surgeon who specialized in the exact thing that I needed. So he repaired my heart.
That's awesome.
And he ended up marrying this woman, Susan Russell Hall, who was fresh out of art school. Her first job was to stand in operating rooms, and as a medical illustrator, she would draw pictures of the operation. She had several pictures of my heart drawings that she ended up giving to my mom through a translator, and explained exactly what happened to my heart, what they did to fix it. And, my mom held on to those images, those pictures, for years until she passed away, and then she gave it to me. Well, I was on a podcast called Heart to Heart with Anna, told her this story, and she's like, I'm on a mission to find your doctor. 2 weeks later, I was in Seattle meeting my hero for the first time after 43 years.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, and I met the wife who gave me the originals of the drawings.
Wow.
And there was one other drawing that I didn't know existed that she found in the files and gave to me. So, that's to say that I'm 50 years old today, and, who would have known that all that time, I could have died when I was 5 years old, or even earlier, with the war or with boat escape or in the refugees, because there was a lot of, a lot of disease and murders and things that happened there. And I don't know how, by the grace of God, I'm still here to talk about it with you all. But
Absolutely.
that's my story.
Fantastic. That is unfreaking believable. And Amy, you mentioned that you were 9 months old when you were fleeing. How long did it take for you to get to Seattle?
So it was 9 months before the fall of Saigon that I was
Okay.
born.
Okay.
And then, so I was born July 30, 1974. The war ended April 30, 1975. And then, we came March 1980 was when we came to Seattle.
Okay, so you were at the end of what they expected your life expectancy to be,
Yeah, I was 5 and
and
just
went on this huge adventure and a whole new life, and just, obviously you endured a lot, but you obviously had, angels watching over you every step of the way. So that's
yeah,
amazing.
definitely. And my mom, of course, such a strong woman, and
Yeah.
definitely had angels on her side. And, she was the youngest of 7 children, the only one to go to college, the only one to become a Catholic, because, my whole family they were Buddhist, and so she turned to Catholicism. And she was just, one of those outliers, trailblazer, I guess. But yeah.
And is this what inspired the Snow Trilogy? Is your mother's struggle and her courage and what she was willing to do to keep her family safe?
It is. So before writing, I was in the tech space. I worked for Microsoft and T-Mobile. I was working for the board of directors and the C-suite, doing a lot of traveling, working for, well, anyways, when my mom passed away in 2017, that's when my life that was the inciting incident, right? Like everything just shattered. And I just quit my job. I quit, and I took 2 years off to re-level myself, to unearth my heritage, really, and figure out who am I now. And I just, I was walking one day and listening to Prince on my, headphones, and I just can
As one does.
feel, right? And as you know, I just felt this calling to write my mom's story. Like God was telling me, write your mom's story. And this was how I was able to understand my background, and where I came from, and understand a little bit more about the war and that kind of stuff. So 2 years later, I had a manuscript. I won actually an award for the manuscript before it was published, pitched and got no's from 35 people. And then right when I decided, okay, I'm going to self-publish this thing, I got a contract to traditionally publish it. But then again, my heart was telling me to go the indie route, so I turned down that contract. I went the indie route, and I think going through the pain points of that indie process is how it got me to today to start my own company and help others. I know. So, and going to those conferences helps me to keep abreast of what's going on.
Very much so.
So I will see you at WriterCon.
Yes.
We will definitely have to, stop by. Well, I guess it'll be a totally different building than I'm used to. So you guys
Yes.
will have to show
Yeah.
me where we go sit and visit.
Oh
'cause
yeah. There'll
totally
be a couple of spots that we can hang out.
Oh yeah.
Amy, you went on to write a couple of books in the Snow series, the saga, the trilogy. One of them is Snow's Kitchen. How did that come to be? I want to know a little bit more about. Is this a cookbook? Is it part of the story? Tell us more.
Yeah, so after I wrote Snow in Vietnam and Snow in Seattle, my readers wanted to know what happens next. And I said, well, you got to have a trilogy. But I had no idea what to write about because I felt like my mom's story had been told. And I thought, well, what about my story? What about Dolly's story? And, one of the things that was hard for young refugees who came as kids, they were really tormented by the old ways of the Vietnamese culture. Like you had to be a doctor and engineer, failure is not an option, straight A's, whatever. And meanwhile, you lived a very strict, quiet life. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have the American culture, more independent, more loud, more, party, vibe, whatever. And so there was this conflict, and I went through so much in my teen years, from first love to being homeless to being kicked out, having, being a part of a gang for a split second, and I got out of it quickly, that I thought, okay, I need to write this story. And I did it during NaNoWriMo. And
yay, NaNoWriMo.
It killed me.
Yeah.
But I was literally locked in a room crying every day for 30 days. And when it was done, I thought, I'd like to tie it in somehow with the other two books. And, if you read the trilogy, food is always talked about, and it's a common thread throughout. And so I decided to put in my favorite recipes, my mom's favorite recipes, and hence the novella and cookbook part of it for Snow's Kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really special. Family recipes, holding on to those are so important. My grandmother was a horrible cook. I'm going to just put it out there. She's a horrible cook. So all the recipes that I have been developing, because I went to cooking school for a while, and I like to eat. So I've been coming up with my own recipes and developing my own recipes, and I have them all jotted down in a little, notebook, like I have all my other notebooks laying around. And my daughter was like, Mom, I have to get all your recipes. What if anything happens to you? I'll lose your recipes. And I'm like, we'll make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm in the process of putting those all down for her. And at some point, I would like to have a cookbook to go with the Veritas Codex series, because Lauren is the queen of campfire cuisine. And, half the meals that we make at home are also meals that I make at the campsite or when we go camping. And definitely don't want those to die. So,
oh my gosh, that is the greatest gift. And if you don't know who Kina PA is, you should follow her. She's a close friend of mine, and that's what she does, is she does cooking out in the campgrounds, out in the wilderness, while hiking.
Sweet. Yes, I need to get her contact information. Help me find her and connect on Facebook or
Yes,
Instagram or
we'll
something.
connect you.
Yay.
But she's amazing. So you can definitely maybe, get some ideas off hers too.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I've been doing is that every time I mention a recipe in any of the books, I have a page on Pinterest for each of the books, and they stay private until the book gets published. And then I go in and make it public so everybody can see what all my inspos are, where the recipes are. If I got the recipe off Pinterest, I'll put it on there, or I'll go put one up there myself, and it'll be tied to the book because I know that I have readers who want to know how to cook, red beans and rice over a campfire or, whatever Lauren made in Egypt with Tima or whatever. So, yeah.
Well,
that's
I think
wonderful.
too, tying the food aspect into the family history and heritage is so important because I think for any culture, the foods that you grow up eating are very much a part of your identity in a way more than just like the trappings of the food, right? There's the feeling that goes with the food. And I think that's it's very important to connect with that part of heritage. And so it sounds like you really tapped into that. Because I know, for example, the last intact piece, so my mother suffers from Alzheimer's, and she hasn't been herself for a long time. And if anybody who's ever been with a loved one that has Alzheimer's, they know what I'm talking about. But the last thing I had in my mother's intact handwriting is her recipe for hot crab hors d'oeuvre. It's the last thing she ever gave me that was written down in her handwriting where she was kind of all with it. And that kind of feeling, more so even than the food, is what I'm getting from your connection to Snow's Kitchen, is that, this is our, more than food, it is our identity as well.
Yeah, beautifully said. And it's, we break bread around a table with food. And I think with music too, those are the two things. Food and music really transcend beyond borders, and really connects us to our past, present, and then also our future. But
yeah.
And I encourage everybody, if they get a chance, to try to get a hold of those recipes, because my mother-in-law is the most amazing woman, and she does everything from scratch, and for years when I first started dating her, son, she wouldn't give me these darn rolls recipe.
I have a recipe for you on that.
She always changes the subject when I compliment and ask for, but she finally gives it to me, but I think something's missing, like she's withholding something. I can feel it.
Yeah.
I used to be a safety inspector consultant. I'd go into businesses and help them with their safety program. And I was doing a nursing home in a little town, and the kitchen staff, I have to interview people as I go through just to talk about safety programs and what they know and what they've been trained on. And so while I'm interviewing the lady that works in the kitchen, she said, well, do you know anything about making bread? And I said, yeah, I know a few things. And she goes, well, how long would you need, a yeast roll bread recipe? 7 to 9 minutes, depending on the humidity and the, starch level in the flour and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, here, take a ball and get to work. And while I interviewed her, we sat there and made rolls. And it got to be an every year thing. Every year I'd go out there. She'd like, wash your hands and let's get to work. She had worked in that nursing home from the time she was 16 years old until she moved in as a resident.
Oh, wow.
And the last time I saw her, she gave me her recipe. She'd never given it to anybody before.
Oh my gosh, that's so special.
I have that recipe, and I make it every year at Christmas and Thanksgiving.
That's so special.
And sometimes even more often, because she didn't have any children, and that recipe would have been lost. And that's history. And I just couldn't let that happen.
Together, so
yes.
We can have the bread, we can have the crab dip, and I can make egg rolls or something.
I can help with that too. I like making egg rolls.
Family heritage potluck. I love it.
Yes, I like it. I like it. That's the
now,
plan
if
for
we were in
WriterCon.
different states, that would probably help.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to carve out WriterCon Day.
Yeah.
Well, Betsy, you left Oklahoma.
I'm in Arkansas now, so I'm close, but it's still 5.5 hours away.
Okay, and where's?
I'm in Florida.
Okay,
yeah.
in Florida.
And then Jenny is in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
All right. Well, Amy, why don't you go ahead and share with our listeners where they can find you, find your books, and learn more about you and everything else that you've got your irons in the fire on?
Well, one-stop shop. If you go to quillhawkpublishing.com, you can find everything about me, about my authors, about the writing process that we go through. And all my social media links are there as well. So thank you so much.
And it's a very schmexy website.
It's
very schmexy.
I've actually been on your very schmexy website. So
well, thank you. I will let Media Vines know.
Yes, pass that on. Amy, thank you for coming on the show, sharing your story and what makes you unfreaking believable. I'd also like to thank my lovely co-hosts. It's good that we have headphones and microphones because you are both rock stars. So, listeners, if you enjoyed, please rate and review on whatever platform you listen on. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible.
You can join our Unfreaking Believable Facebook group and follow us on TikTok, X, and Instagram. You can also join us on Patreon for exclusive content. We have a free Patreon subscription, but you can also help keep this show rolling for as little as $1 a month.
And please visit our website at www.ufbpodcast.com. And if you have an unfreaking believable story, reach out to us at ufbpodcast@gmail.com because we'd like to hear your story too.
Betsy, how about you send us out with your quote of the day?
All right, I'm going to quote our guest today as I feel like it's appropriately summing up our conversation. In Snow in Vietnam, Amy writes, "Grit and tenacity will take you far in life, but love and forgiveness will carry you to the finish line."
I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to go buy all her books now.
I know, me too.
Thanks for joining us on the Unfreaking Believable podcast. And remember, as you go out into the world this week, don't just be awesome.
Be unfreaking believable.
See you all next time.